Hit rec- So, yeah. Hi, guys. Welcome to today's episode on Play and Learn series by Tomo Club. We have a very special guest, Jason Tindal. He's a superintendent at Kingsway Christian Schools from Vancouver, Washington. And he has been educational leader for 28 years and across several schools. Before this, St. Joseph Christian School in Missouri, Stewart County High School in Tennessee, um, and henceforth. I appreciate when I was going through your profile, Jason, I saw you have been working on academic programs. You secured a lot of significant funding to enhance facilities, as I could see. Um, and I think also built a robust community. So I think when we picked up this topic, I think I could not have a better guest than this. So today's topic that we have picked up is the silent crisis and why schools must prioritize life skills now. Just to give a quick introduction, my name is Avinash. I am co-founder of Tomo Club. It stands for Tomorrow's Club, and we also work in the same space of life skills. And we teach that to students through games, through multiplayer games, where they interact and learn these life skills like resilience, grit, emotion intelligence, empathy, problem solving. And it's a huge list of skills. Um, Comes under the category of human skills or executive functioning skills. And so, yeah. So before I begin, I think, Jason, would like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, my name's Jason Tindal. I serve as the superintendent at Kingsway Christian School. It's a school of about 1,200 kids just north of Portland, right across the bridge, the Columbia River, in a city called Vancouver. And we're about 2.5 hours south of Seattle. And I've been here for 7 years. And though I've been in private education for about 26 years. I've been in public education for a couple of years as well, and um, I've always been aware of the public school system, and then also other alternative forms of education. And I don't have a I just know that faith-based schools or private schools are different, and I prefer different. And so that's why I've chosen the private school route. But ultimately, I'm in the business of kids and educators that share in the idea of improving a society through improving kids. And so that's my draw to education, and that was my draw to Kingsway Christian Schools.
No, definitely. I think there can be no better mission in life, personally. And I think after doing two startups myself, when I started doing Tomo Club 3 years ago, that was my major motivator. And also, I became a father. That gave me another deeper meaning of why I should think about skills that's going to be relevant for my kid and for other kids as they enter the job market, like 5 years, 10 years from now. And not even professionally, but also personally, how do you
Yeah.
conduct? So I would love you to define first, what do you mean by life skills? And do educators, school leaders, or parents feel that school should teach it?
Yeah, when life skills, I think, has transitioned over the past several decades. Life skills used to be agrarian, where life skills were how to farm and things like that. I still think that's a skill.
Yeah.
It's just not a skill that a lot of people, learn in schools today. But there are other skills that I think have transitioned over the past, even decade, where information is just different today than information of the past. And so I think being able to assimilate, information and being able to learn how to find information and being able to network and being able to uh, whether you're in a nonprofit or not, fundraising is a skill that has to be learned, and being able to learn how to communicate and collaborate and with other people groups without technology in your hands. All these things are life skills. And then I would add to that, the technological skills that you need in order to do some of those things are also life skills. So I think life skills mean different things to different people. And based on the goals of students and based on the goals of parents, I think you have to meet people where they are and help them with where they want to go with some of these life skills. The other side of the life skills topic in my mind deals with there are more and more families that may not be able to provide these skills to their kids. You know,
Hmm.
for a lot of variety of reasons. The family might be a broken family, maybe a family where there's a lost parent, or maybe a blended family that's not able to provide some of those skills. And so schools have had to take a little bit more of a role in
Hmm.
filling up that gap. And I think that in a private school situation like I'm in, there's less of that because there are more families who are able to pay a tuition rate and able to provide more resources that other kids may not have.
Yeah.
But there's still life skills there. And then in a public school situation, I think schools have to do fill in that gap because there are families that may not be that way in some of those schools. There are certainly plenty of families like that in those schools, but there are also families that don't have the ability to accommodate some of those needs. And so, in my mind, when I think life skills, I think of being able to accommodate students to get them further and farther.
Hmm. I'll also add one more dimension to what you just said, from my personal experience. So I have ran and scaled previous companies to 100 plus employees. And one thing that I always realize after a while, that the entire hiring process for us was all about evaluating whether the person can be a good fit for the company to work in terms of like work together as a team, work with a similar ownership. So it was always about those life skills took over a precedence over the hard skills, especially in the last,
Mhm.
when you can learn these skills at a much faster pace, or you have your AI assistant helping you, that
Mhm.
started feeling the importance of these skills even further. Because if you can't work together, you won't be able to make it, or you won't be able to contribute effectively. So I think from a employer point of view also, I think the definition of life skills have become much more critical lately, um, because same person can end up doing much better job or much effective work with the available tools. um, but let's start from the reverse uh, pattern. What do you think will be the long term implication if the students who graduate without these critical skills, the self management or decision making, what would be the long term implication of lack of these skills?
Well, I think that, you know, the effort of having students move further and faster and farther are important when it comes to some of these skills. And I think life skills, you know, have to be defined really well. You know, is a life skill learning how to change oil in the car,
Hmm.
or is a life skill learning how to um, use AI efficiently? I think both are life skills, but schools can't have the burden of doing everything for everyone.
Yeah.
I think schools have to have a burden. There's a shared burden. Parents have to take a huge role. But then the shared burden is, you know, a school could take on an identity of, hey, here's the skills we can provide so your student can move further and faster and farther. And so, in my mind, at Kingsway, you know, we're really interested in students being able to collect and get accurate information.
Hmm.
Um, and we have to help them with that skill. And we have to help them with doing that together with other kids, being able to work together with other kids. And as relates to our strategic planning, we want students to be able to uh, be college ready, but then also career ready.
Yeah.
And both of those end up defining which life skills are needed in order to be life ready or college ready and career ready. And so I think that schools have to do a really good job of identifying, okay, these are the life skills we're going to focus on so kids can go further and faster and farther. And schools that don't do that I don't really know how they function. At the end of the day, you have to be intentional about creating the right life skills to accomplish the mission of your school.
Hmm. No, this is interesting. You brought up the information part of how do you search about it. So there is like we work with a school and we had a game called fake news. The game was all about that whenever you are given out certain tweets, how as a group you will react to it, and how because to be cognitive enough to know the reality, first of all, you need to be emotionally regulating yourself. Don't get triggered. Don't get uh, excited, but at least look at the facts and figures and background checks. So I think that's true with the amount of fake news spreading across because of AI and content being on social media too easily manipulated. I think you brought up that skill very efficient of how do you search and how do research.
Mhm.
That's definitely there. And at the same time, when you said that, I think a lot of schools may or not have explicit programs, but inherently teachers will anyway do it, while teaching that kind of academic curriculums. So there's no
Right,
doubt about
right.
it. Um, Also, I think one thing I've realized is that lack of these life skills has a long-term impact on whether it's mental health challenges, whether it is workplace conflicts, whether it is economic inequalities. I think all these major or even interpersonal relationships of how you manage that, I think that becomes directly implicated. um,
Mhm.
but how do you think about integrating these skills in your traditional curriculums, how do you connect that so that teachers also embrace it and able to do it in a more structured manner?
Well, I think we have to start with our mission. Our mission is to partner with families. So we don't want to replace the family. We want to partner with the family. And, families that send their students to our school, um, they send their kids to our school for a lot of reasons, but many of those reasons are similar. And so, from those reasons that they send their kids to our school, we like to do what we do best, and that is Christian education. So we like to have a foundation of a Christian worldview, and therein lies a lot of skill sets.
Yeah.
In our minds, our role is to point kids towards Christ, and so in towards Christ, we have to help them with being able to communicate and being able to defend their faith, being able to um, have the competency and the capacity to do what we feel God wants them to do post graduation. And if we're so when you define your mission and you define who you are and what you're good at, then you can create a list of life skills in order to do those things. And those life skills are not necessarily an additional class
Hmm.
as much as they're woven into your curriculum and as much as they're woven into your programming through athletics, through the arts, through the academic curriculum, through summer enrichment, through reading, through all these things, that everything reinforces the standards or the objectives and these life skills that you want in each of your students post graduation. For example, we have four different skills that are really important at Kingsway. One is discovering God's love. I mean, we don't have a class on discovering God's love, but we want kids to have a skill of seeing and evaluating and analyzing, hey, the creation and relationships and inner workings with people can help us understand how we can discover God's love. Another one is discerning his truth. So how do you discern what's in the scripture? We want kids to have that skill of being able to take a controversial topic or take a new innovative idea, even like AI. And what does God have to say about this? How can we discern his truth through his word, through his scripture? And then we want kids to dream about what is next for them after graduation. So we don't really focus on salaries and focus on, you know, publicity in a college major. We focus on how did God create you? And what are those skills that he put inside of you that you can utilize for him in the future? So we want you to dream about that. We want to help find that and take and help you help that come out of you, help you blossom. And then the last, we call this the 4 Ds. The last D is we want our kids to then do it. So do God's will. And what is God's will? Well, it's different for every single kid because based on how God created you determines what He wants you to do next. And we want to help kids kind of flesh that out and think through that and not replace the parent in walking with kids through that, but partner with parents. And so what the kid is learning in school is similar to what the kid is learning at home and potentially in their church if they attend church as well. So those life skills are all based on what our mission is. And I think that's when you define and you can identify a grouping of, hey, these are the life skills we're going to focus on.
Mm.
And so how could you use some of these innovative ideas to help reinforce your life skills that will make that kid go further, farther, and faster?
No, those are really beautiful. And I just want to understand like, we work with different type of schools. So I have realized that whether it is through faith or through a set structured curriculum, they want to be kids to be kind and respectful, and they want to be
Yeah,
humor. So the bottom line thought process is still to make them a good human at the end of the day. But the biggest problem that a lot of school faces is engaging kids, because when you are explaining these um, thought process, it becomes a one-way street. Not every kid is as equally engaged or actively participant in it. So how do you engage kids in this kind of conversations more effectively?
I think to me, and I think to anyone who's honest, if you have a great teacher and you have a great instructor, you shouldn't have any problem with classroom engagement because a great teacher isn't someone who can get up there and wow the crowd. A great teacher is someone who can get up there and engage kids wherever they are. You know, some kids have interest in sports. A great teacher can find that and engage those kids. Some kids have interest in the arts. A great teacher can figure it out, even in math class.
Yeah.
A great teacher can figure it out. Some kids have families that they're not proud of. A great teacher can identify that and engage those kids too. And then some families or some kids have families that, they want everybody over at their house because they have great families. Well, great teachers can identify that too. And I think great teachers can help blend all that together to
Yeah.
create vibrant communities within your school. So to me, the best way to do that is through great teachers. And I think great teachers find great resources, but I don't think that great teachers need great resources. It makes it better, but they don't need great resources. You give them a room with a bunch of kids, they'll figure out how to engage those kids. So that's what we try to focus on here is finding the absolute best teachers we can find. And then the cherry on top is giving them the resources they need to make their job more efficient and even better in what they do.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think so. While working with a lot of schools, we realized one common line of thought with teachers is that they are really overwhelmed with so much work that they have to do, from grading to preparing to
Mhm.
personally guide kids, that we realize that when we talk about these skills, it becomes like an added job on their profile, and they sometimes feel they would rather focus on core math science at that time, so it becomes a trade-off, right? And any kind of tool which can make these teaching of skills more efficient, more quick, more interactive, ends up becoming the best tool that they end up using it. So I think, so do you guys tried to use some technology tools in this direction, or it has been mostly through teachers and all?
Yeah, I mean, we have different things that we introduce to teachers. I just have learned over the years that there's not a one size fits all resource for teachers. You've got first year teachers, you've got veteran teachers, uh, you've got profession teachers where they came out of another profession.
Hmm.
You've got teachers that are also coaches, and so to think that there's one size fits all, hey, just use this resource, it'll solve all your problems. There's so many of those companies out there that we don't really focus on that. What we try to do is to give autonomy to our teachers, and then our teachers end up using similar items, but sometimes those similar items are are more appreciated by teachers than others,
Hmm.
than other teachers. Some teachers don't appreciate the uses of AI.
Yeah.
Some teachers love it. So we try to give them some autonomy in their classrooms. That's the beauty in my mind of private education is there's a little bit more, it seems to be there's a little bit more autonomy and less top down. And so because of that, you can give your teachers the freedom to experiment with several different things instead of giving them one thing that they have to do.
Yeah.
So I think that those tools can certainly help with education and with engagement, but those tools, in my mind, aren't the answer. The answer is the teacher who uses those tools.
Yeah, absolutely. I agreed. They become the center of this implementation process altogether. Um,
Yeah.
like one thing that comes to my mind when I talk about life skills and these soft skills or human skills, it's also about how do you measure the progress or impact, considering that there cannot be some standardized test for it. So what is how do you assess the progress of teaching these skills?
Well, I mean, we look at our graduate profiles. So, the products, our alumni. Um, we do look at test scores. That all that stuff is important. Sometimes you can assess some of these skills, um, in my mind, the proof is in how the product turns out. So, how many of our kids finish college? How many of our kids have a career? How many of our kids are successful in their college or their career because of the life skills that we've kind of helped them hone while they are in school.
Hmm.
So I think a lot of it is kind of through observation. You can assess whether this is working,
Hmm.
but then there's some assessment you can do that are competency based. How many kids finished 4 years of college in 4 years? How many kids went on to get advanced degrees? How many kids, have helped a nonprofit raise money? How many kids are still in a faith-based organization? How many kids are attending a church and are faithful in their church,
Hmm.
giving back to their community? I mean, these are all things that you can just, if you follow your alumni, you can follow the tracks of people who have hone these skills and are utilizing those skills.
Hmm. Do you guys also have this metric around behavior referrals, like detention, suspensions, and like students being referred to a counselors? Do you have those kind of statistics as well?
We do. I mean, being a private school, we don't have to utilize that as much
Yeah.
because we accept students into our school on the basis of they seem to be aligned with where we're going with our mission.
Yeah.
And when everyone is aligned and heading in the same direction, you don't have as many disruptions. You don't have as many frustrations because everybody's kind of heading in the same direction.
Right.
I know every school doesn't have that luxury. I mean, I think that is a luxury. Sometimes that's what people pay for when they send their kids to a private school is, hey, the luxury of everybody is kind of heading in the same direction. They don't all think the same.
Yeah.
They don't all share the same beliefs politically or religiously or economic, whatever. But they are all heading in the same direction of, hey, we want what's best for our kids, and we feel this school will provide our kids an avenue for what's best for these kids. So we don't have as many issues with discipline and and structure like that. We have them, but not as many as I know other schools might.
Hmm. There's like one of the statistics that we have been really working on is, not sure you guys have the problem, but around attendance and sense of belongingness. So basically, if students are showing up more and the cases of chronic absenteeism is decreasing, that's also a big reflection that schools are doing the right job on the life skills aspect. There must be something.
Yeah.
I think that's also very, um, I would say, factor that can reflect, like a proxy factor reflecting it.
Yeah, we don't I wouldn't say we put heat pressure on our faculty, our coaches, but we don't necessarily put all the blame on students that have absenteeism problems or have
Yeah,
tardiness problems. To me, we really focus on, okay, if a kid is being late often, frequently, or not showing up, in a private school, sometimes it's very, very different reasons why. A family may be traveling
yeah,
and they'll make up the work. Well, that's not really, in my mind, absenteeism. Absenteeism and tardiness is more, kids that are just not showing up because they just don't want to. Kids
yeah.
that are tardy just because they're, they're just, lazy from class to class. In my mind, those things are addressed best when we find out why. Why are they absent? Why are they late? Well, if we can apply a little bit of pressure on the teachers, say, hey, you've got to have a compelling reason for that kid to show up. You got to be able to bring your A game on a Monday morning when it's raining, when that kid woke up late. And teachers embrace that. Teachers like that. So I think in education, we ask ourselves the wrong questions. So the wrong questions are, man, we got to, why are you late? Should be the only question we ask. And if the reason is because, well, I just didn't feel like coming, well, it's because we didn't give us a compelling reason for them to come. Not only that, I think if kids knew that they were missing out on something when they were late or tardy, or when they were tardy or absent, if they knew they were missing out on something, they would be tardy and absent a lot less. And
Mm,
so I think you have to create that compelling reason for kids to be there instead of finding more tools to figure out how to be creative with marking kids absent and tardy. That's kind of the approach we take. We have kids that are absent and tardy. I'm not saying we don't, but we kind of put the pressure on us instead of putting the pressure on them. I guess the pressure is shared. We,
yeah.
we share in that pressure.
No, absolutely. And also, one thing I want to understand, how do you see that effect of these skills and like intersection of these skills and mental health? How are students dealing with stress or anxiety, or nowadays, like they have body shaming issues or bullying or even social media impact on their self-worth. So how are you feeling that skills helping in mental well-being?
Well, I think more and more there needs to be a coach, teacher, counselor, parent, friend that understands that, it has a relationship with these kids that's authentic enough to notice when a kid is having some struggles with their social emotional health. I also think it's important that you provide the right professional development with your school community to identify how to handle it and how to diagnose it, really. And when
Hmm.
I say diagnose, I don't mean with prescription,
Yeah.
though that might be part of it, but diagnose it from the standpoint of, hey, how can we help? Can we be a support for you as you're receiving this help? In addition to that, I think that it's important that a lot of schools treat the symptoms, and I think that it's okay to treat the symptoms,
Hmm.
but we feel that there are a lot of root causes of some of this social emotional struggle, and we want to help with that too because we're an educational community. So, for example, if social media is a root cause for social emotional health, well, we feel that it's important to help kids and families understand some of the challenges of social media
Hmm.
or some of the challenges of dealing with other people. If you can understand the root cause of why you're feeling the way you're feeling, then a quick answer may not be the right answer, but a quick answer may be to help educate on the actual root cause.
Hmm.
Um, in my mind, if a kid is tired and is frustrated and, doesn't have a lot of self-worth, and you find out that they never sleep and they're always on social media,
Yeah.
it doesn't do any good to send them to send them to just any old counselor. I mean, you've got to be able to provide the right support and counselor so the counselor can then not just treat symptoms, but the counselor can truly help them with the root causes of why they may be feeling with what they're feeling. So I think that social emotional health has to be part of a school community and really any community to be frank. Because if we ignore it, then we're part of the problem. If we But on the other hand, if we try to diagnose everything and try to do everything ourselves, well, then we're also part of the problem, maybe even a bigger problem. So I
Hmm.
think just on a school level, on a community level, there's just more of an awareness of it, and then directing those kids to the right channels to get the help that they need. I think that's probably the role that the school takes,
Yeah.
that a school should take.
No, yeah, I think it's more preemptive measures, like, like teaching, basically. And
Yeah.
if they still find themselves in a dark place, then of course there has to be professionals taking care of it. And that's definitely a more in the post um, therapeutic product or solution required in that direction. So just want to understand on these skills aspect, do you connect it with the life skill on the faith-based program that you guys have, or do you have a separate structured curriculum around it?
Oh, I think we handle it very similarly to the life skill aspect, and that is through our professional development with our teachers, but then also through programs within our curriculum. We have a program called Frenzy, and that program is it's not a faith-based program, it's a values-based program, but those values have a lot of faith elements in it. And I think that I think that being able to um, communicate some of these social emotional helps with some of the values that we appreciate and that define who we are go a long way in helping with some of that preemption when it comes to mental health. So I think it's just woven into what we do, and sometimes we'll have guest speakers. A lot of times we'll have guest speakers on mental, social emotional health and social emotional supports and being able to collectively as a community help kids in that area. And frankly, in parents too, the kids who used to have social emotional health are now parents who still have social emotional issues. And those people are having kids. And so it's a universal problem that we're facing, that we have to understand that, hey, we're here to help our community as much as we're here to help our kids.
Hmm.
It's just harder sometimes to diagnose it, or I don't know if the word is diagnosed, to see it in a family, in a parent. Um, but in my mind, there has to be some authentic awareness of hey, this is here and it's here to stay and it's not going away. So we have to either embrace it and help or ignore it and be part of a problem.
Yeah, no, so well said. And I also think that the social emotional health is a constantly evolving problem, and we need constant evolving solutions around it. Like as I'm growing older, I have a different perspective to the same problem statement. The problem statement which was used to be not effective to me, like if affect me, now affects me much deeper. So I think as I grow up, we need to keep on honing these skills, like week on week or month on month, because it can never be enough to
Yeah. Yeah.
and constant learning is the only way to remain on top of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a very very insightful discussion. I think I got much better understanding on the faith based learning values on this problem statement of life skills. And yeah, I think, and you mentioned the product called Frenzy, right? Like Friends and Z.
Friend and then ZY,
Yeah, yeah.
Frenzy.
No, I think I have seen that product. It's like a video based program, right? It has activities and some videos. I remember, I guess, right?
Yeah, all sorts of resources. It's more of a character education
Yeah,
program than it is social emotional health. But a lot of character education assists in the fight against social emotional issues. When you are more forgiving, there's going to be less stress. When you are more kind, there's going to be less stress, and all that contributes towards great gains when it comes to social emotional health. And so that's what that character education or um, social emotional education, all those things work hand in hand in my mind.
yeah. No, I think I have seen. I've been a teacher myself. I've taught high school kids, and one thing I've realized is students who have a stable environment at home or mentally they're good, they end up doing much better academically. There is an obvious correlation, and it doesn't even need any research. It's common sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, makes total sense. I think this was super helpful, Jason. Loved it. Any other inputs that you want to give to people who's listening or
Yeah.
listening?
The one thing I just wanted to say one more thing about what you just said. I agree that a stable family is it does make sense and it's so helpful for the kids. Um, but I also understand that there are a lot of families that they don't have that.
That
They
that's
don't have that stable family. It might be a single parent who has to do everything themselves,
yeah,
or it might be an abusive situation. And so I think if we have our blinders on, we're going to help just a few kids. When if you take those blinders off, you have to realize that those from stable families that's a life skill in my mind, should take the responsibility of helping those who may not have a stable family. And I
Mhm.
think that's also part of social emotional health is having a good awareness of the people that are around you and have compassion on them. Not feel sorry for them, not treat them differently, but have compassion of, hey, we're all in this thing together. And we know that we have a little bit more of an advantage than some kids, and so we have to have an awareness to help our communities. I know you weren't saying anything different than that, but to me, that's just really important that we don't look at it just through the lens of our own stable family, but we look at through the lens of our community and realize that there are a lot of people who don't have that we have to gravitate towards and help. Because when we help them, that'll rise the tide for all of our communities and all of our schools, frankly.
Yeah.
So that's really important as well, I think.
No, absolutely. This is amazing. Thank you, Jason, for your time and
Yeah,
lovely inputs. So yeah, I was more than happy to talk to you, and we'll keep in touch.
sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Bye bye.